Okay, so trade recap. And today was actually a really good trading day. It's funny because I'm showcasing here a loss that I took, but the trade was not a bad trade. And so let me go over it. On the monthly time frame, we have the same context as the previous trade, where we are rejecting this monthly fair value gap. On the weekly, nothing interesting. We have not created that weekly fair value gap yet, but we're about to do that. On the daily, let me just remove that text for now. We are about to create a daily fair value gap higher. So I have marked out this line because if we are truly bullish, this daily fair value gap that is about to be created should not be prevented. We should create that. On the 4 hour, we did have, let me remove that line for now. We did have this 4 hour fair value gap, which we, before London, stung into. That was actually quite interesting because we can see here that when we stung into that fair value gap, we did on this candle, yes, we did respect it. And that is why this 2 candles later is very interesting, because here we came into this 15-minute bearish fair value gap overlapping with this 15-minute order block, and we respected that, causing this push lower. From that moment, when we were already just coming below this low, I was expecting lower prices towards this 4 hour order block. On the 4 hour, which is sitting right here, and I was expecting that to be the next draw liquidity, which we ended up coming down to. So at this moment, when we came down to this order block, this candle to me is also showing respect, because the wick to the downside is very long relative to the candle body. So this wick on the lower time frame is displacement. Here is where the first, I might say, where the first bearish signs came in, let's say, because here we had this expansion phase higher, which could then create a fair value gap here, but we did not do that. This to me was not that weird as I was looking at this, because we had to take into account that we are still encountering resistance in form of this bearish 50-minute fair value gap, as well as this bearish 50-minute order block. So I was expecting a rejection, which it did, prevent this 50-minute bullish fair value gap from being created. On the 5-minute, we also had a 5-minute fair value gap that we traded into. So when we did not have that 50-minute value gap higher, my other entry pattern is that we create a 5-minute ST off of a 4-hour PD array, and then we create another 5-minute fair value gap higher, which we did here. And I entered on the creation of the fair value gap because I did not know for sure if the fair value gap did want to be traded into, and I was also able to achieve a 1 to 2 when we reached the target here. So to me that was perfectly fine. Here, actually I did not take this big of a loss. I actually got stopped at this point right here, and I am going to explain why. So when I was in the trade, I noticed that here we had this, of course, this 5-minute fair value gap that we could push higher from. But this 5-minute fair value gap was not a standalone fair value gap, but we actually also had this mitigation block here. So we had this overlapping defense right here. So when we stung into that and we respected that area with this candle going higher. That big candle, the wick into the overlapping defense to then explode higher. I was I had already then at that candle close refined my stop loss to the area right here. That might seem weird, but also on the 15 minutes at that moment in time, if I just remove these things so it will be easier to see, we was at that moment in time about to create a 15-minute bullish fair value gap, because remember, we had this big 15-minute expansion phase. So I also knew that if price truly was bullish, fair value gaps equals momentum, right? In most cases. They can also be manipulation, but in most cases they are momentum. So when this fair value gap got prevented, or wait, let me actually put it this way. I saw that this fair value gap right here was about to be created, but it would be prevented if price came down to this candle low. So that's why I put my stop loss there, because if price did come back after this aggressive move higher, then it would prevent that 50-minute value gap from being created, and that would to me be a bearish sign that we might want to continue lower, which we ended up doing. So to put my stop loss here was an obvious reason for me, and so I got out with only a small loss, and yeah, I am pretty happy with this trade.